come out to play.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 47 of Formidable Opponents, a show that pits three people who have known each other virtually their entire lives in a series of conversations as we argue what is best in a variety of fun, engaging, and critical pop culture topics we all debate about. I'm Randall, and with me, as always, Bob and Joseph. Also with us today, our friend and very special guest, Charlie Corona. And today's topic is our favorite movie posters. This topic was chosen by our guest today. This week, we are calling a truce and talking about our favorite movie posters. Movie posters have always been the precursor to new films we mentally mark down for future viewings. How many times have we left a movie, walked down the exit aisle for movie posters to catch our attention? The best ones have us making plans right on the spot. They are a standstill attraction, a composition of art, colors, storytelling, and communication design that serves two purposes: originality and effectiveness. Teasers and trailers are ephemeral, precursors that hype you up for the movie and sear an image in your mind. Movie posters, however, are effective, tangible memorabilia. They are a story of your taste, personality, and your memories. Their on-spot efficiency continues to grow as they become collector's items, constant reminders of some of the best experiences of our lives. They are dated time capsules that take you back not only to the movie itself, but that certain time of your life. Maybe it was your college dorm room, your first apartment, or maybe it's your man or woman cave in your house. Whatever the case may be, there's no denying the feelings and memories these artworks evoke. This week, we are talking about best movie posters. Before we introduce our guests, Bob and Joseph, how are you guys doing?
Doing very good, actually.
Joseph's on cloud nine because Texas Tech just pulled off a big win. So I'm sure he was running around in his underwear right now.
For those of you all at home and who are probably hearing this, yeah, it already happened. So I'm just pretty excited, though.
Big Texas Tech hoops fan Joseph is, so they
Football,
pulled out
but,
this one. Oh, hey, you know what? College all around.
University in general.
So today we want to welcome our special guest, Charlie Corona. I'm going to read a little bit about him. Charlie is a longtime friend of ours. He was a longtime rock radio DJ for Q94.5, the biggest rock station down in the Rio Grande Valley. He doesn't know this, but as a joke, I often called the radio stations when he was on. I would disguise my voice every time and request Hinder's Lips of an Angel, and he was always happy to play it. So thank you, Charlie. He's emceed many events and will most likely put our presentational voices to shame on this show. He co-hosts a popular YouTube show. It's called the Rock N Chaz Show. He's Chaz. It's a fun show that covers an array of pop culture and current event topics. On the show, Charlie has interviewed the likes of former WWE superstar Kurt Angle and stand-up comic and former SNL cast member Jim Breuer, among others. Charlie is also a college professor, a noted memorabilia collector. He's worked in Vegas, a student of improv, a sociology, psychology, comedy, and a student of life. So first of all, Charlie, welcome to Formidable Opponents. We're happy to have you here, man.
Well, first of all, nicely done. How many introductions use the word ephemeral? So congratulations right off of there. It sounded incredibly spontaneous, beautifully written, and even better read. Nice to see you, Randall, longtime friend. And Randall helped me through graduate school. I want to thank you. Before we do anything else, thank you for helping me in graduate school. It was rough. It was tough. And you were there for the hot tag. I appreciate that.
So Charlie and I did meet in graduate school. And actually, I got to thank you, Charlie, because from what I heard, you're responsible for me getting my first full-time job at a college. I heard that you recommended me for the student activities gig. I don't know whether to thank you or choke you out because I had some tough times, but I also had some great memories. Some of my best memories working were in that department. So thank you for the recommendation.
Yeah, sure. You know, I was going to move to Vegas for a little while to take classes at the Second City. And I thought, hey, you know what? Let me throw this guy into the lines then and let you throw you in and let the NWO handle you. So congratulations.
So Charlie, this question's actually for both you and Bob, because before graduate school, we actually worked out at this gymnasium. We won't say the name of the gym, But you were there
in
for
Edinburgh?
the one in Edinburgh.
Why'd you call it a gymnasium? I've never heard of it. We went to go lift weights at the gymnasium. Never heard of it. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
He's going to use the word discotheque as well.
Actually, it did turn into a discotheque, if I'm not mistaken. They turned the front part into a bar. So this gym, sorry, Bob, was how would you two best describe this gym?
I would say it was half ghost town, half. It looked like a place where Van Damme would fight a villain. Because there was just a lot of just random empty rooms and weights. So it looked like some showdown would eventually going to happen against Van Damme versus the villain of the week.
I have to agree. Yeah, it was like old school weight room in the back, but in the front, it was kind of just a big open empty space, like where they would do Pilates or some shit. Once a week or on random days, they would have like what's it called, like Zumba classes or something. But yeah, it definitely, like, you could see like a karate show, like the damn Cobra Kai. Yeah, they could have shot there because it's just a big empty room where you could see like a showdown happening in the front. Yeah, and
it was literally never full. I mean,
oh yeah,
if there was 3 people in there, that was a riot. So I liked it for that reason.
That's how come we had to talk, because we were the only 3 people in there. So we had to spot each other, right? So this is how tight knit our world is. We did an episode, Charlie, a few months back with friend of the show, Joe Michael Vasquez, who I know you know. We did best guilty pleasure song, and oddly enough, Joe Michael was a student of yours in your intro to sociology class. So I want to ask you, how would you best describe Joe Michael's in-class demeanor? Because I had to edit out all of his cursing on that episode. He was recording at a church, by the way, but how would you describe Joe Michael as a college student?
In a church restroom, by the way, or something like that. Or it was like you go to confession.
No, it was a storage room, I think. I don't know. Storage room. Oh yeah. Something.
I would say that his demeanor was mostly taken up by his hairstyle. His hairstyle has his own gravitational pull. It has not changed. It also serves as a motorcycle helmet. And back then he was very passive and a young Padawan willing to listen. So as far as the student goes, hats off to him.
So Charlie, you chose this week's topic. What inspired you to make this selection?
Well, one of the things that's happened throughout time is that instead of an evolution, I think there's been a de-evolution in movie posters. I think they've gotten very lazy with movie posters, and they're just going to put just 2 faces. It's the Matt Dillon face and the other actor face, and you just have 2 faces, and then that's all. And then there's your advertising. Much like album covers back when we were younger, album covers, it was a big deal,
Yeah.
And I decided to start collecting some movie posters where it was not just the actor's face, but it was actually an illustration. So some of the things that I've chosen for this week are actually illustrations done by an artist, a well-known artist. I'm not saying these are the best movies ever. I'm not saying these are my favorite movies ever. I'm just saying I really, enjoyed the movie, but I really enjoy the illustration as well, because this is almost unheard of, to hire an illustrator that's very well known and you have to pay him a lot of money. It doesn't really happen too much more. So I decided to start getting a small collection, and that's why I picked this week's topic.
No, I think that's a great point, because it does seem like movie posters in general. I mean, that was the thing that used to catch your eye when you'd go to the theater. You're waiting around for your movie to start, or like Randy had mentioned at the beginning, when you're leaving the theater or leaving your movie, you'd see a movie poster, and that would be the thing that caught your interest, got you interested in, oh man, I got to check out this movie. I have no idea what it's about, because, in the 80s and 90s, we didn't have the internet to just jump on and watch a movie trailer. So that was our, something to catch your eye. And I feel like they don't even bother anymore, or they don't even try anymore. Like you were mentioning, it's just all kind of, let's use a shot from the movie as our movie poster and we'll roll with that.
Yeah. And I understand their philosophy, because you can see the trailer on your phone. Why invest in the movie poster? And I understand the logic. I'm just saying more, it's a shame. It's a shame that they don't take that one more step and invest in the poster as well. So
I'm wondering if it's because everything is available to us on our phones immediately or online. two, we're kind of slowly getting back into this situation where you can go to the theaters and hopefully, maybe get back to those experiences that we used to have. So I'm wondering if it also has to do with the budget, knowing that, movie studios are going to have to get their money back, one, with shaky ticket sales. So maybe not producing posters is probably a better situation. And I know that sucks. And I wish they wouldn't do that because, I remember I've had those experiences too. Like when we were younger, walking in front, and they used to have every theater that I can remember going to used to at least have the posters all out in front with the movie times. And you see this huge poster and then, now it's like the cutout cardboards, but again, and those were really fun, but I guess, like I mentioned, because of the time we're living in, maybe they're skipping it because of trying not to lose as much money on marketing while trying to, recoup that just on ticket sales. You know what I mean?
But they're losing the nostalgia factor, though, because I think that that's a big thing with us. Charlie has his posters there in his room. We can see on the Zoom call all these amazing movie posters in the background, but like nobody's going out and buying. What was a recent movie we saw? Like nobody's going to go out and buy.
Thing too.
One of the newer, like the new nobody's gonna go out and buy the new It poster that came out a few years ago, the movie, or everybody wants that nostalgia factor when you're building that man cave, or you want it just in your house in your little movie room. You want to have those old movie posters that look badass, that had some kind of special meaning to you, or maybe it's your favorite movie, or whatever the case is. I just don't think that. I think they're losing out on the nostalgia factor, but not producing these great posters anymore.
Well, maybe you could speak on this, Charlie, because we're looking at Charlie's posters in the back, and we've noticed that a lot of movie posters now, they'll have like a silhouette figure and like maybe some sort of new age font with the title of the movie, and it's almost like they're trying to pique our curiosity and using this vagueness as an enticement to purchase a ticket when a lot of us don't want that. We want to see what we want to pay for what we're going to see. And Charlie, what do old school movie posters do as far as the enticement to buy the ticket to go watch the movie that maybe new movie posters don't?
Well, first of all, you used the word ephemeral earlier, so I'm going to use the word juxtaposition to checkmate your ephemeral. You're talking about a vague movie poster.
Are we talking about drugs?
Correct. There are very vague movie posters, and then you juxtapose that in the trailer where they show you the entire plot.
Yeah.
One is giving away the whole thing, and one is showing you nothing. One of the things that the old school movie poster had was that comic book feel, and like, hey, we're going to escape to this other universe where something else is going on. And you kind of want that comic book feel. And to go back to the concept of this, called threading, by the way, threading back to the album covers, the very first Black Sabbath album cover, you remember it's like a creepy old lady in front of a grist mill. Yeah. I mean, you'd never heard the music, but you immediately knew there was going to be a creep out factory here.
For sure.
So, going back to the movie posters, you do kind of want that comic book feel to when you look at it and you say, okay, they're going to take me to this story, they're going to take me to this time, and they're going to suck you in just with that one image. And Randall, I see your daughter is there. She
snuck out of bed.
Impressed with my presentation.
she heard juxtapose and she was like, "What?"
Yeah, she was like, "Hey, did someone just checkmate my father in vocabulary?"
She's like, "These are not the Teletubbies." She just sorry about the interruption, guys. She just
don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
She doesn't know what's going on. We'll let her hang for a little bit.
Hi, sweetie.
But let me ask you guys: do you agree with the take of the movie posters?
Oh yeah, I agree with that 100%. I agree, especially when he said the movie trailers nowadays, they give away the whole, they give away the whole damn movie. You know what I mean? They give away the whole plot. The movie posters, especially the older ones, they give you just a little taste of what's to come or what could be. You know what I mean? And you actually get to think about, man, it's going to be something about, you watch. Let's just say the movie Halloween, the movie poster, it's, the jack-o'-lantern and obviously the knife. And you're thinking like, well, obviously, somebody's coming home. It's going to take place on Halloween. There's a knife. So there's probably going to be a slasher movie. Your thoughts run wild rather than just you seeing the trailer and knowing, just about everything that's going to happen. So yeah, I agree with that 1,000%.
Agreed. Yeah, there and we'll get into it, but I know how Charlie mentioned about kind of the comic book feel. I think you said we'll get into later. I guess is in doing looking back at movie posters and whatnot. Yeah, I get what you're saying there about like and we'll touch on the genres. I'm sure the different genres for that. And then producing a movie poster for a particular genre, like I think I'm not sure if you have. I'm seeing maybe an Excalibur. I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, that's what I thought it was. So, but like the horror, and then Bob just mentioned Halloween, and you go back and look at those like the movie posters for the
80s slasher,
for the 80s slashers, awesome. The horror movies, and even now I'll say to this day, the scary movies that come out like the Annabelle one. I somebody hooked me up with a small promo poster for that movie, and it was just like the half face of the doll, and it said Annabelle on top, and it was pretty. I actually put it up at my office during Halloween. I was like, that's my Halloween decor.
I didn't want to scare the women in your office, Joseph.
and it looked cool. Like it did. I was like, so yeah, I think I nowadays with these movie posters, we probably don't pay attention to them, and people just walk straight in. They don't really do. Then again, I can't speak for everybody because I've gone to maybe 2 movies in theater in like the last 2 years. So
you weren't going to miss Mission Impossible 6, Joseph.
I will say this, Joseph. Once you said Annabelle, you scared my daughter out of the room. So
you booked it.
I would ask you guys this. Is there a particular movie poster that stopped you right dead in your tracks, caught your attention, and completely sold you on a movie before you knew anything about the film, just based on the poster?
One movie poster that popped out from my youth was the Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yes.
Because I knew Harrison Ford from Star Wars. He's Han Solo. He's a cool guy. All right. I like him. And then I see the movie poster, and I immediately know what's going on. He's got a whip. There's a fedora, and you can see on the side, like he's hanging down. Immediately, okay, this is going to be adventure. I hadn't seen the trailer. I had only seen the poster. And I was hooked in. I was immediately hooked. I was like, okay, this actor now has jumped onto a different genre, and this poster has me hooked, and I'm going to go watch it. I already know I'm in for adventure. I'm in for fun. Let's do this. And I'm already committed just by that one image. And especially that, if you guys remember the Raiders, there are all the little tiny photos on the side to kind of clue you in as to what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Behind me, you can see this poster for Every Which Way But Loose.
I love that movie.
Yeah.
With Clint Eastwood as Philo Beto.
Yeah.
It's funny now, Excalibur and Conan and all these, it's a completely different universe. But he's just here on planet Earth doing, getting in fights. But even this movie poster sells adventure. He's got his fist. He's got an orangutan next to him. He's going to be getting in fights. You see the bikers on the side. You're sold. I'm in. I'm in this ride with Clint Eastwood. It looks like it's fun. So going back to your question, Randall, for me, it was Raiders. And so that's what sold me.
I did get excited about... and I don't think the poster was anything real fancy.
If you say Showgirls, I swear to God.
No, I mean I did get excited for that one, but
it's a great poster.
It's a great. It's actually not that great of a poster, to be honest with you. And, but no, when we first started seeing the posters for the first X-Men movie, because I thought, this is like the comic books that we read. This is the animated show that we watched, and to my knowledge, this was going to be the first live action movie or big, if I remember correctly. So you got kind of excited about it. At least I did. I was like, fuck yeah, an X-Men movie, and it ended, I believe it was a great fucking movie. I think that cast in those original X-Men movies were put together great. I mean, who's going to be a better Professor X and fucking Patrick Stewart? Nobody.
There's a few that really stick out to me, but it wasn't, I didn't really see them when I was a kid because they're a little bit older. But one I could say when I was a kid, or one that really stands out, was Beetlejuice. You see in there's a ton of imagery in it, and you see Michael Keaton, and you see Alec Baldwin, it's just his head and his body separate, and what's her name's in a dress, so
Tina Davis.
there's a lot of quirkiness to it and weirdness, and it's going to be a Halloween movie, and there's going to be some kind of scary factor, but it's also going to be funny. So that's one of the movie posters that really stuck out to me. That when I saw that, as a kid, be like, that'd be something I'd be interested in. And it's still a movie that I watch like nonstop nowadays. One, doing the research, or not just doing the research, but looking up posters lately, the Jaws poster. I can imagine, that one in the 70s, and especially since it was a summer blockbuster. I believe it came out in June. I forgot what year exactly. I think it was like 74, 75. Imagine seeing that poster when you're going to the movies in May, and you see a poster of just this huge shark, swimming right underneath, this female who's swimming on top of the water. That sells. That's crazy. Like, that's something that I want to see. That's such a great little gimmick, or a great little, imagery that they used for the poster for that movie. Definitely would have hooked me in.
I think for me, I'm almost afraid to approach the subject matter on this, because with Bob on the call, it's never safe to talk about this subject. This one, for me, I was a little older on this one. The one that stopped me, I had no idea what this movie was about. I had not heard anything about this movie. And I think I was in one of those independent draft houses when I was on vacation. I had just seen some art house movie, and I'm walking.
Randall, was it I Split on Your Grave?
No, not I Split on Your Grave. That's a great one, though. That's a great one, though.
Quote unquote art house movie.
I was in an art house movie. I just happened to be there randomly walking. It's a clear day.
It's art.
The Uber driver told me that this is a great movie.
So anyway, as I was walking out, there was this movie, and I know this movie is more famous for another poster that uses real life imagery, but this is an animated poster. And I see this movie, and it's called Boogie Nights, and I know nothing about it, but I see an animated Mark Wahlberg, pants halfway zipped. I see, but it has like a circular sort of halo of characters, and all their sort of like niche sort of characteristics.
Personalities or something.
Yeah, like John C. Reilly has the nunchucks, I think, and Burt Reynolds is sitting on the door. So I know nothing about this movie, but I know exactly what the subject matter is just looking at each one of these animated characters and saying, I got to watch this movie. I didn't know Paul Thomas Anderson. I had to go retroactively to watch his early movies, Hard Eight, which is also known as Sydney. But this is Boogie Nights was one of the best movies I ever saw in the theater. Firstly, because it's such an awesome movie. Secondly, every time Cosmo threw a firecracker, it scared the shit out of me.
That's Cosmo. He's Chinese. Love that scene.
Great movie, by the way.
Alfred Molina really. By the way, Alfred Molina had earplugs during that portion, so he didn't know when the firecrackers were going off. That's why he doesn't react. You're supposed to think because he's on drugs. Anyway, that movie poster alone reeled me in to watch that movie, and I still think Boogie Nights is one of the most rewatchable movies of all time, and that movie poster was the first introduction for me. And I think that movie poster came out of Germany, but it was in an art house studio, and I got to see the poster, and it just reeled me in.
It's funny because that's the first thing I tell myself every morning when I wake up. You're a big, bright, shining star.
So let's talk about some great movie posters for some really bad movies. Have you guys ever been stuck to where a movie poster sold you? It looks great. It looks fantastic. I have a few examples myself, but then the movie just wasn't up to par.
There was a Rob Zombie movie, and he's hit and miss. And I think a lot of horror movies, it seems like they invest heavily on the poster.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the gore factor or the creep out factor, it's just really low. And horror movies are real tricky because it's real easy to make, a poster that's got the edge and the creep factor and on the cutting room floor. And at the end, the product is just a dud.
Very much so.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So horror movie posters are always, I feel like those are the ones you can trust the least.
Exactly.
That genre, because, I mean, it's just, they're very hot and cold. Movies.
And that's the problem, because I'll look at an awesome horror movie poster and think like, this shit looks like it's going to be great. And something along the lines of like, okay, the first Friday the 13th wasn't that great of a movie. I mean, I love Friday the 13th series, but I mean, really think about the first one, and it's not that great of a movie, but the poster's fucking awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
it really
Yeah, that
is.
poster's pretty
That
cool.
Friday the 13th movie poster and you don't see him, which I mean, obviously you don't, but it just looks fucking cool. And so, but like something like that with me recently, and looking this up, one that I thought was going to be a real badass movie was Arrival. Because I'm into those movies too, where we got the situation where maybe some kind of alien invasion or some shit like that. And the Arrival poster is like this. It's kind of a shot of a city and this egg-like looking ship. The movie itself wasn't that great. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie. It's a more recent, not too recent, but it's called Arrival, and so that's another one that kind of. I think that too, that can go the same way. A movie that's kind of about or has a subject matter of like a sci-fi alien type thing situation that can work against you as well. And it did for me on that one.
Yeah, and it could work both ways because both
Yeah.
Alien and Aliens have very simple posters, and those movies are brilliant.
I was going to mention going the opposite direction. The Exorcist, the movie poster for The Exorcist, very like very
that one worked.
very unassuming, but it's very unassuming and like. It doesn't give anything away, you know what I mean? And you watch the movie and you're like, holy shit. Like I mentioned that my uncle slept with a shotgun under his bed for like 2 weeks after seeing the movie at the drive-in because it freaked him out so much. But the movie poster doesn't give anything away, and it's very like I said, unassuming. Rather than there's a ton of movies like especially horror movies that have these great, all-in movie posters. They put in a lot of art and really hook you in, and you see the movie and it's a dud.
Bob, are you talking about the Exorcist poster where it has the priest waiting in front of the building?
Yes.
That's it, right? Yeah, you know nothing what's going on. All you know after you watch the movie, like this is a precursor where priest is going to get fucked up before he gets into that building. And it's such a good story. Yes. That's a good one. Yeah, I have that one in my notes. That's a great one.
No, I was just saying, and it's crazy how that one like worked. And just going back to how simple it was, the silhouette feature of the priest standing underneath the street light and the title on top, The Exorcist. That's all you got to know about this movie, and that's all they like Bob mentioned, that's all they let you know about this movie, because I'm sure there was a trailer. I think I'd have to go back and look at it, but that on its own, like today, like if I saw something like that, it would sell me on like I'm gonna check out this movie. And hopefully it wouldn't be that situation where the poster was awesome and the movie sucked. But in this case, even back then, I think it's an awesome movie poster. I don't know how people felt back then, and it's a great movie. It worked out perfectly.
Something you could touch on in future episodes is songs associated with movies, because you're talking about the movie poster for The Exorcist. Even if you just did a radio spot for The Exorcist, the name of the song is Tubular Bells.
Yeah.
When you hear Tubular Bells, you immediately know that you're in for a ride, and it's going to be a horrible one. I mean, that song is a perfect representation of what the entire film of the roller coaster that you're in for. And you touched on great with the Exorcist movie poster, very understated. And then that song, Tubular Bells, extremely creepy. I mean, it's win-win on the advertising front for that movie.
Oh, yeah.
I think nailed it. I think one that's akin to that, I had this on my notes, the movie poster for Rosemary's Baby. You have is it the bassinet or the cradle on top of a hill with like, I think there's like something superimposed on the background. I'm going by memory on this one, but I think that one was another effective movie poster.
My favorite one in kind of in the horror genre is Poltergeist with Carol Ann, with their hands on the TV. White screen of TV. Yeah. Then they're here tagline above. That one was super. I mean, creepy and interesting. And man, I got to see that movie.
I was just say another one for I guess horror, and I know we got to talk about different genres, but but it kind of what I said earlier about and what Charlie said about the not animated one but drawn ones and horror illustrated one. Excuse me. Yes, thank you. The Amityville Horror one, that picture of the house. I liked the movie. I mean, I did. I'm sure people might not like the movie, but
you just don't like to sleep. That's why.
Yeah. The poster for the Amityville Horror, it's the front of the, that house, that iconic looking house with the windows that look like eyes. And it says, "For God's sake, get out." And it's just like, it's
great tagline.
Cool. Great tagline. It's cool. Yeah. I mean, they threw a little piece of the script in there or something, or just something like, tagline. And just, it's fairly simple. It looks menacing, and I enjoy the movie. That's something today that would make me want to go check out this fucking movie.
My daughter left the door open. Now the cat's in the room too. And then right when you said Exorcist, something rubbed up against my leg, and I almost shut this whole show down. Some great movie posters for some really bad movies. One that was recent was that I was really disappointed with the movie was Wonder Woman 1984, because as you guys know, 80s, we love all the retro stuff. Charlie, you talk a lot about 80s and 70s on your show, and you saw this great looking retro movie poster, and you're like, all right, they're going to take us back to an era that we grew up as children and relishing the pop culture of that year. The movie sucked, but the poster was really good. The
trailer was good too. The trailer kind of sold me on that, like, oh, this might be a cool movie, and
there was nothing more than just the trailer.
Yeah, it was too long. It's too many villains. I'm just, it wasn't a good. The first one was 10 times better. But yeah, that's that.
What about some great movies that had horrible posters? Almost the poster nearly deterred you from watching this film, but it's forever associated with such a great movie. I'll go first on this one because I have a few that I want to mention. X-Men First Class, they have some alternative posters where there's like an animated illustration, a silhouette of Professor X on his wheelchair, and then there's a superimposed photo of just his face over his body of a young James McAvoy as young Professor X. Another one I didn't really, and it's right on his crotch, so it looks very weird. I just yeah. It looks.
I know exactly which one you're talking about now. Yeah.
War of the Planet of the Apes. It's a monkey that's riding a horse. I don't know. It looks like a fun idea for a rodeo promotion, but for a movie, not so much. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas with Johnny Depp as the main character. With I know it's supposed to be a drug-induced sort of vision that they have.
Yeah.
I don't really care for the poster. And then the last one I want to mention, and this is a very underrated movie. I don't know if you guys have watched Mickey Blue Eyes with Hugh Grant. And one side of his face, it's James Caan, who's kind of like, pinching his cheek. And then the other side, he's got his girlfriend or whoever the romantic interest is. It just looks like, what is this movie about? It makes no sense. And what about you guys? Any sort of great movies that had horrible posters?
I can't really think of anything that pops in like a movie that I love, but the movie poster was very lackluster. I do remember I loved a recent horror movie called Hereditary, and I think that the movie poster was just a picture of a little girl's face, I think, and the movie, which blew my mind. I go, wow, I got to watch this director stuff. The movie poster was kind of not inspiring at all. And the trailer was also not very well done. I almost watched it in spite of the poster, and I really liked it a lot. So that's one of the horror movies that pops into my brain, that the poster and the trailer were just not good, but I really liked that movie, Hereditary.
One I was going to mention is the Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah.
That movie poster was lucky. I mean, the trailer was amazing, and I was already excited about this movie, just from all the hearsay, what it was going to be about, and all the little the rumors and all that good stuff about it. But the movie poster was just, him like yelling on the staircase, and it didn't really do much for me. That's one of the ones I like looking through it. Like, I was like, I think they could have done a lot more, something crazy, when he's sitting across from De Niro, or when he's holding his gun, or something crazy, to show that side of him. But no, it's just him, like you can't even see his face because he's like leaning up and screaming as he's coming down the staircase. So I thought that was, I don't know, it fell short for me.
Especially, Bob, when you compare it to the Dark Knight poster, the Heath Ledger. Why so serious?
Why so serious? Yeah, exactly.
Which was a great poster.
Yeah, exactly. Good point.
One, I guess, for me would be as much, and this is weird because I love the Pulp Fiction poster, but I don't think it tells you much about the movie. I think now that I've watched the movie and seen it, and as much as I love that movie, I think it's such a kick-ass poster. If I didn't know anything about the movie, way back then, and just seen, Pulp Fiction, and it's a girl laying down on the floor, smoking a cigarette, It don't really say much about it, and I guess that's a good thing. I don't know. Maybe it ended up working. Maybe that was the intentions. But like I said, I love the poster because I love the movie and I love the director. I just don't think it
just didn't do anything for you.
Yeah, it didn't tell you how actually awesome that movie was going to be.
I think the intentionality with that one is if what Tarantino was trying, and in the
he's trying to show her feet.
It's that too. And it's in the title of the movie. He was sort of hearkening back to the pulp comics, where when you look at these old noir detective comics, they would always have like the love interest like lying on a couch with like a smoking gun by her head, or the detective out in the rain, kissing the love interest. So I think that's what he was trying to accomplish. But I do agree with you, Joseph. I think when you look at that movie, it's bigger than what that poster shows you. Yes. Another one I wrote was 12 Years a Slave. Brad Pitt was a producer of that film. And there's this huge photo of Brad Pitt overlooking the cotton fields as if he was Jesus. It's a movie about, slave revolt. And Brad Pitt's up there. And I'm pretty sure he didn't agree to this, but they were like, we got to sell tickets. And Brad Pitt, you are who you are. And
you're beautiful.
Yeah. He has 5 minutes in the movie, by the way. And, but they put him on the poster, which, it is what it is. I guess it was just a marketing ploy, but the movie's fantastic and very educational. I don't think it needed Brad Pitt as the centerpiece of the poster. Can you guys think of any movie posters that completely did not match the movie that you're like, I did not expect? They could have done something different with this movie poster. They could have had something that was more akin to the topic of the movie, and it's just totally out of right field.
This is going to go back to probably the horror ones and the animated ones. Like one that I mentioned, Friday the 13th. I thought it was like, regardless of the first one, regardless of the fact of whether you like the poster or not, we don't see Jason in that movie.
Wait, he jumps out of the water at the very end. Yeah,
well,
you're expecting your expectations are really high because in the poster, it's the campgrounds and the kids and like his silhouettes, standing over them, exactly. And you think you're gonna get this big, slasher villain or something, and ends up being his mom. And it's kind of a letdown. Yeah, I can see that. That one's definitely for me too. I agree with that. It's definitely a letdown.
What about you, Charlie?
I'll pass on this. I'm kind of blanking on anything that's been a real disappointment because I kind of hold on to the ones that are more memorable. The ones that I really kind of appreciate.
Apocalypse Now. Have you ever seen that poster?
Oh yeah.
It's just kind of like I don't know how to describe it. A sunset type situation and.
And what's the name? It's in the background. Isn't
it Marlon Brando's face? Right,
yeah, Marlon Brando's face is like in the. Yeah, it's like hovering above. Yeah.
Then I'm sorry. The one that I'm looking at
still kind of throws me off. It still throws me off. Yeah, from the movie itself.
So
there's two I have examples of. Ocean's 11, which there's only 9.
The original.
Yeah. There's only 9 people on the poster. It's Ocean's 11. I guess that's just a mathematical issue. And there's one for Star Trek: The Voyage Home, and it's a very cartoony poster. The crew land on Earth, and they're surrounded by like the village people. Like they're in San Francisco, and they have every sort of like stereotype of what you would see like in a metropolitan area. They have like the punk. They have like, the guy jamming on his guitar on this side. And it's I guess it's supposed to be eclectic and saying, they're off in a different land and these are all the people they're going to encounter. But I think it was a real big swing and a miss on that poster. Not much of a Star Trek fan, but the poster wasn't great. Let's go on and talk about our honorable mentions. What are some of the movie posters that you guys have either seen, collected, or have provided you with some wonderful memories that are some of the best posters you've seen for movies and best promotional items?
Well, one of the ones that I loved, and one of the things that happened in the 80s was there was a lot of super fights, like Sugar Ray and Marvelous Marvin. And, it was a big deal. And they were going to fight each other. And it was marketed. And it was. So the movie poster that reminded me of the concept of they're selling a big fight here, it's going to go down, was Lone Wolf McQuade.
Yeah.
I mean, the movie poster for Lone Wolf McQuade was a huge picture of Chuck Norris, and next to him was David Carradine, and they're looking at each other like it's a super fight. And if you happen to see the trailer, you do see, they do fight. So the movie poster for Lone Wolf McQuade is giving you a teaser for this super fight of Kung Fu versus karate. And I love that movie poster. And Chuck Norris is coming down to South Texas Comic Con, and I have that movie poster. So I think I'm going to have a day committed to where I go over there, get in line. Hello, Mr. Norris. By the way, his real name is actually Carlos, and he's not Hispanic. His dad's best friend was named Carlos. So his name is actually Carlos.
That's cool.
So I'm going to say, hey, Carlos, Chuck, would you sign Lone Wolf McQuade? And I'm going to tell him this is the best movie you've ever made, by the way. Second runner-up would be a movie he did called Silent Rage, where he basically fights a character that it's much like Jason, like you can't kill him. So I love that movie poster. It's a teaser of a fight, and it's a really good fight scene. It's not overly done. It's not so fakey. It looks pretty realistic, and it lives up to the hype.
I think Chuck Norris's best movie is Sidekicks, but that's just me.
That's a great movie.
made you want to throw away your asthma pump and throw some kicks in the corner there, and break some bricks.
What about you? Any other movies that you guys wanted to highlight before we choose like your favorite all-time movie?
Well, I mean, there's a couple besides. I mean, I'm going to really stick with the horror theme because those movie posters have always, got a special place in my heart. I love what they do a lot with the art, but on a different note, the Animal House movie poster is really cool, man. A ton of animation, real zany and crazy and funny, and you could tell by the poster. By the way, it matches perfectly with the damn movie, as hilarious as it is. I really like that movie poster. Airplane also had another great one, with the airplane all twisted and turned, so you knew something crazy or funny was going to happen. I thought that was a really cool and clever idea for a movie poster. The Nightmare on Elm Street, I thought that movie poster was awesome. Had a really cool 80s feel. Had the horror element, with the pretty girl lying in bed. Provocative, doesn't look like she's wearing a top, but she's barely covered with her bed sheet or comforter. And then, Freddy's claw, obviously, like right above her head. Really cool marketing, really cool look to it. It's one of my favorite movie posters. Who also nailed it because that movie was, one of the scariest. Didn't we talked about that right during when we did the best horror movie or best?
I believe
villain?
So. Yeah.
I mean, fucking great movie, scary as hell movie, and the movie poster was excellent.
I think we can all agree with before I say that is I know 90s there was movies posters for 90s movies. My brother used to work for Carmike actually, and Carmike was I don't know what it's AMC now. So he would when they would be switching posters, he would bring some home. So I remember some of the ones that he did bring home at the time, and none of them were really stood out. But like the ones that clearly the 80s, right? The 80s movie posters, and even before then, like the Lost Boys, Back to the Future, the Goonies, Big Trouble Little China. These
favorite movie, man.
Some awesome posters for like, a time when I guess maybe, and it goes back to what you said or what we've all said, is that back then it was more, we didn't have that I can watch a trailer on my phone right now if I wanted to. And that was something that we used to have to do. We would see trailers for movies when we were going to go watch a movie. And, so we were there to go see a movie and then obviously see the posters, that were coming out. And if it caught your eye, like we've been talking about, then you maybe wanted to go see it. But like, even like, do you have I don't know if I saw a Star Wars one, but I'm pretty sure you have one. A Star Wars poster up somewhere?
Actually, I don't have one. Those are really expensive.
Yeah, I'm assuming.
They cost a lot. Everything that I have here, I've purchased, and they are expensive. And if you want a Raiders, that's a very Raiders of the Lost Ark is very expensive. Anything Star Wars is very expensive. I wanted to get the Warriors.
Yeah.
That's
great. That's a great poster.
It's a great poster, and you can see all the gang members in the back.
Yeah,
that's a very expensive movie poster as well. So I don't have any Star Wars. I had one more honorable mention, and it's, if you can see it right there, it's Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah.
There it is.
Now, the Conan comic books were a lot of them done by Mr. Frank Frazetta, who is a great illustrator. So when this movie poster, when you saw it, you immediately are sold because you see the actor. Hey, this guy's a big guy. They actually hired the right guy. And he does sound like how you think Conan would sound. Not very intelligent, a little bit on the brutish side. You can't understand everything, but he's here to kick some ass. So going to the honorable mentions, Conan the Barbarian, he's holding a sword. There's a chick by his side. He's built. He's huge. I'm in. So, I mean, another great movie poster. And then the one right next to it, Excalibur as well. You see the Lady of the Lake. You see the sword. You're sold on the concept of fantasy. And the movie is a perfect combination with this poster. And in fact, the Conan the Barbarian and Excalibur, the posters mirror the film. And you're sold on the advertisement, and the movie it delivers all the way.
Do you think back then that there was a lot of instances where the movies and the posters did such things like that? Back then, did a lot of like I'm looking like did they fit each other more so back then than they do now? I've looked at a lot of posters that I was seeing for movies I've never even heard of, and they were coming out on like lists of bad movie posters or bad, this and that, because a lot of them are incredibly photoshopped. Like I saw one where I don't remember the name of the movie, but it was like 4 or 5 people laying in bed, and it literally looks, and I can't remember any of the actors, I don't think I knew any of them, they superimposed their heads on bodies, and it just looks so bad. It's I think back then, like I'm looking at something like the Tron movie poster, that awesome image of the the dude with the sending the disc in the air. And that's for the, I think the most recent one that had come out, what was it, Tron Legacy or something like that? I think, which was, I thought it was a good movie. I think it did something similar to that with their poster. But I think the original one for the first Tron looks incredibly awesome. And I thought, it worked like how you mentioned with Excalibur and Conan, they mirrored the events of the movie. We don't see it anymore. We're not going to see that anymore.
Yeah. I think they've gone in a different direction. Yeah,
they went to where they mostly are just going to have a picture of the actor. And so there's not really much to go with. I mean, all right, this movie has Matt Damon and Morgan Freeman, and there you go. So, I mean, you have to rely on the trailer.
With all three of you guys being heavy metal, hard rock enthusiasts, do you guys remember the animated film Heavy Metal and the poster? Which is very iconic, and I felt that poster sort of anytime you see like a spoof or a parody of like 80s like sci-fi animation, I always feel that that's the movie they take from. You have like the warrior, the warrior princess on some sort of monster with a sword, flying through the sky, and you'll see like spoofs on like Family Guy and all these Adult Swim cartoons and even some movies. But to me, that when you mentioned this topic, Charlie, that was one of the first movie posters that came to my mind was Heavy Metal.
Great soundtrack, by the way.
Yeah, very iconic movie poster and very memorable. And I actually remember seeing the trailers on television, and my eyes were like a cartoon, but I could tell this was not for kids. I mean, I don't know how I know this, but I know it's not for kids. And iconic movie poster. Yeah, very true.
It's a great movie poster. Some of the ones I had listed, and you guys mentioned a lot of the ones I have on my honorable mentions. I thought one of the most underrated ones was JFK with the red, white, and blue imagery. Kevin Costner, very underrated movie poster. I liked Mean Streets, Martin Scorsese.
Yeah, Mean Streets
movie.
Is cool. It's like the gun shaped in the city of was it Manhattan or New York or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's cool.
Great movie poster. The one I think is one of the most iconic, and it's almost like if you have this poster somewhere in your house, it says so many cool things about you, was Purple Rain, Prince. I mean, can anybody pull that movie poster off nowadays? I can't see any actors that could pull that off. Prince was just amazing.
You just reminded me, Randall, of because it's funny. That's just such a simple thing to do, and it doesn't take a lot of hard work. Instead of just a close-up of the face, another classic movie poster of a guy on a Harley is Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man.
Yeah, a great
with
movie.
Mickey Rourke and Don Johnson. I mean, they're just two guys standing next to a Harley, and you're okay. These guys are going to go on an adventure. I can tell it's a little bit of action. It's a little bit ironic. And it's such a simple premise that the film doesn't really do that. I mean, just take that one more step. If you want to just use the actor, go for it. but have them, be on a Harley, like Mickey Rourke, or how Prince was on his motorcycle. And it's a very good point. Yeah.
Charlie, do you mind if can I ask you a question?
Yes, I work out.
I don't think I think we I don't think Randy had asked this one, so I'm going to try to step in his shoes. Do you think, and I'll tweak it a little bit, do you think that, are you still, because clearly you're a collector, as we can see and as you've mentioned, do you think that posters are still very important to movies today, or like, do you just collect do you collect, and I'm sorry, maybe this is a two-part, do you collect the posters of movies that you liked, or is there one like maybe that just has like an iconic image that you think was a really awesome poster and I want that even though the movie kind of sucked? Sorry, I guess that's two parts.
Yeah, no, but I essentially I collect. I decided to go a little bit more with the illustrations because it's essentially it's art.
I'm assuming you like these movies, though.
Yes,
obviously, right?
Yeah. It's a win-win. I like the film, and it's an illustration. There are a few examples. There are a few exceptions. Like I have Stripes with Bill Murray.
Great movie.
Now, that's an example. Hey, all they did was just put the actor's face. That's kind of lazy.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're talking Bill Murray here.
Yeah. And Bill fucking Murray.
Classic film. And even though I critique the concept of just putting the actor's face, that's so lazy. When it's Bill Murray, and at least he's got a smirk, he's kind of smart alecky, he wins you over. So there's a few exceptions that I have, and Bill Murray is one of them. And another one is the movie, Randall, you may have seen this one. I had it in STC, maybe, was Stir Crazy.
Oh, yeah. Gene Wilder and
Richard Pryor.
Richard Pryor, yeah.
Yeah, and all they're wearing the suit of the birds, and again, it's you think, they're just taking a picture of the actors. Yeah, but look at what they're wearing. And this is a scene from the movie, a critical scene from the movie. And that's another example of, it's just the actor, but I love these guys and I love this film. And even though it's not quote unquote an illustration, it just looks great and it reminds you. So I primarily collect mostly illustrated things, but movies that do mean a lot.
Do you think they're still very, very important to the movie?
Not as much as they used to be. No. Sure, when you're scrolling through Netflix, sure, the image is kind of important, but a lot of time it doesn't even have the movie poster on Netflix. I think it just has like a clip from the film. So the answer to the question is no, it's not as important, because back in the day, you were looking in the newspaper, and in the newspaper, they had the movie poster.
Yeah, I remember
that was the advertisement that was going to hook you in. Today, we don't look at the newspaper for the movie poster, right? We've already seen the trailer on our phone. And so to answer your question, no, because even now on Netflix or any other, they don't even really show you the poster. So it's not as important as it used to be.
And movie posters in the 80s would always follow themes. The more screwball it is, the more screwball the poster was. I can think of Bachelor Party, the Police Academy movies, where it's just like you're going to laugh at the poster and that's what's going to bring you in. And we don't get that anymore.
You're right about Bachelor Party, because it's Tom Hanks and he's standing in a doorway and there's like a woman's leg. Yeah. I think and he's kind of like, whoa, what's going on? Zaniness is going to ensue. Here we go. We're going to hang out with Tom Hanks at this bachelor party. And you're right, the zaniness, and even you were talking about earlier, the Goonies movie poster, they're hanging from a stalactite, I think is the correct term. Yeah. And they're holding on like, okay, kids on an adventure. Or even the movie poster, Adventures in Babysitting.
Yeah, exactly. As soon as you mentioned the hanging one, I was like, you know what? And that's actually a pretty awesome poster
where they're climbing up the building.
It's just a zany comedy, but you can see okay, there's going to be a lot of things going on. It's going to be fast paced, And speaking of that actress, takes me to the Karate Kid. That was also a pretty good movie poster as well.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's what I'm sorry. What I was looking through them right now. Another awesome 80s movie poster with the semi illustrated concept was the Teen Wolf movie, which is obviously a great movie. But this image of like it's clearly like a drawing type, of Michael J. Fox kind of opening up the shirt. It says Teen Wolf, and he's kind of got some hair going on the arms. But it's actually really cool. I'd actually really like. I if I could find that one, I would. And I think it's a cool poster. And obviously, I love the movie.
I think maybe out of all the genres, the zany comedy movie poster, I think that's the one maybe that took the biggest hit. And it's a shame because those zany comedies with those movie posters were a lot of fun. And I think they're kind of not really part of this pop culture anymore.
If everybody watches the trailer, and if the trailer can't make you laugh within the first 5 seconds, because everybody loves the instant gratification these days, they're not going to give it any more time. But back in the day, that little cool, zany, funny poster, like you could just get your attention. You automatically wanted to see that movie.
It's kind of like the animated title sequences or credits. I think the last movie to do that was Christmas Vacation in the beginning, where they had the animated title sequence. They stopped doing that for every movie. And I think Christmas Vacation was the last one they do it for. So guys, to wrap up this segment, there's one more thing I want to ask all three of you about before we end the show. Best all-time movie poster, or maybe for you, Charlie, it's like the crown jewel of your collection. What would you guys say is the best all-time movie poster?
Real quick, honorable mention. The original Chevy Chase Vacation movie poster. I don't know if you remember.
Oh, yeah.
He's holding up a tennis racket like a sword, and they kind of drew him kind of muscular. Going back to the zaniness of the comedy and the Christmas Vacation, where he's being electrocuted like a Christmas tree. Again, going back to the zaniness. But for me, my favorite all time, I'm going to go with Flash Gordon.
That's a great one.
It's a huge picture of Ming the Merciless, and Flash Gordon is holding the sword, and there's a girl next to him. And you can see the Hawkmen flying. You can see the Cloud City, or the city in the sky for the Hawkmen. So you're in for adventure. It's a nice illustration. It's a comic book, and all the music, that soundtrack done by Queen. Talk about just a different concept. Hey, Queen, would you do all the music for this film? Here you go. You're responsible for it. That's a huge compliment. And there is a comic book illustrator, and his name is Alex Ross. And if you look up his illustrations right now, Alex Ross, his entire style of drawing comic book is based on this one movie, Flash Gordon. He's obsessed with this film. So when he draws Superman or Batman, he does it like in a very realistic style. And I love his illustrations. Look up Mr. Alex Ross if you want to see a style of art. But for favorite movie poster, and it's hard to put it to one, I'll just say Flash Gordon, just because it's so different.
And guys, correct me if I'm wrong. I think George Lucas originally wanted to do a Flash Gordon movie, but he couldn't get the rights, so he developed his own thing. Of course, it's the biggest thing in the world now. Yeah. And when they saw the popularity of Star Wars, that's when they said, "Hey, let's do a Flash Gordon film." Correct me if I'm wrong, Charlie. It wasn't a big box office smash. I think it was not a very popular movie. They played on HBO ad nauseum, but
yes, you're correct. It did okay. It did okay in the United States. It did better in Europe, and it did all right. It did okay. It was so. It's funny you're mentioning what you can't do one thing, so you do another. The gentleman that did Excalibur, he wanted to do Lord of the Rings. But they said, we can't afford that, or somebody has the rights to Lord. Like, okay, I can't do Lord of the Rings, and I'll do Excalibur. And it's funny how one thing that's blocked leaps on to another inspiration.
Excellent. Bob, what about you? All-time best movie poster?
Man. I love Big Trouble in Little China. That movie poster is, one of the best. I'm going to go with Dawn of the Dead. I don't know if you all remember Dawn of the Dead's movie poster, George A. Romero's movie poster. It's like kind of like that. It's very cartoonish with the, like kind of a white face with blood, half across it, with the cool tagline, when there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth. Or something like that. Yeah. Yep. It's a really, really cool movie poster, man. And, that's one of the ones I'd want hanging in my movie room. It's really, really great. It's really, really cool. And I've like I said, y'all have known extensively. I love classic horror movies and 80s horror movies and stuff like that. So that's one of the great ones. You could talk to me about any of them. The Creature from the Black Lagoon, the original Dracula, Nosferatu, the Frankenstein posters, like the original movies. Those are great and amazing in their own right. But if I had to go with one, I think Dawn of the Dead. I think it's a really cool poster.
Great choice, Joseph.
Like I mentioned, I think the Pulp Fiction poster is really awesome, even though I said what I said. It's a really cool poster. Uma looks incredible. It's cool. It's a really fucking cool poster. But speaking of Tarantino, the Death Proof poster, I think is really awesome. It's like, it's a throwback to those old 70s, I don't want to say slasher movies or some kind of, it's a throwback to some kind of horror. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's kind of like, it's the car
Grindhouse. Yeah.
The Grindhouse, but the specific, because the Planet Terror was Rose McGowan, with the gun leg, but the Death Proof one itself was kind of like an illustrated
had the car and had the girls behind.
Yeah, and the girls were behind in like a moon silhouette type thing.
Didn't I had that one. Didn't I give you that one?
Yeah, that's why it's one of my favorites.
I know I had that poster up, and then we had kids, and it basically got kicked out. I had to take down all the shit to put up.
It's been replaced by
yeah.
I see too.
So
Hello
yeah.
Kitty.
So it's a really awesome poster. Like I said, I dig it. The car with the this, not, I don't want to say skull and crossbones, but the way that they've done it. And then you see, just like I said, the silhouettes of the girls, and it was a cool throwback, which is kind of what he wanted to do for that movie. And it's personally one of my favorite movies.
Reminds me of the Machete movie poster. They purposely made it look as if it's from the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah.
My selection, I was gonna go with Back to the Future. It's such and it tells you everything in that movie poster. It even has, down to the detail. I think it has the miles per hour on there. It has the flames on the street. It has everything. The suit. But I went with Streets of Fire. And Bob and Joseph, I know I met with you guys on Saturday. I don't think you guys have seen this movie. Charlie, have you? Michael Pare. This was a Walter Hill movie. Speaking of the Warriors, very underrated movie. It stunk up the box office. It was supposed to be a trilogy, but once this movie came out, it didn't make any money. And at the end, they even alluded to like how this guy's going to come back and for part 2. Didn't happen. Michael Pare, as Eddie and the Cruisers, he didn't have the career I think everybody thought he'd have. Diane Lane's in this movie, very young. I think she's 18 or 19. Rick Moranis. But the movie poster looks like a video game movie poster. And I think a lot of video games took elements of the structure and the format of those specific games from this movie. Have you seen this movie before, Charlie?
I have seen it. I saw it once. I think I saw it in the 80s. So for me to say, oh, I love this scene, I need to see it again. But it is visually a stunning film. It looks original. It looks, there is nothing else that looks like it. And much like Flash Gordon looks like its own universe. Streets of Fire, right?
Yeah.
Streets of Fire has its own, it looks like it's its own universe, much like Sin City,
Yeah.
But yeah, no, and you're 100% correct as far as inspiring video game covers.
One of the best songs on that soundtrack is "I Can Dream About You" by Dan Hartman. Nobody knew Dan Hartman was a skinny white guy with a mullet because of his voice. He was like the Rick Astley before Rick Astley, but great song. I was just listening to it today.
I checked out the poster. It's a really cool, it's illustrated, right? It's kind of real. Yeah,
it's illustrated.
And Willem Dafoe is I haven't seen the movie.
Crazy young in that movie.
Yeah, I've seen clips of him in that movie.
Also kind of exactly the same. Is that weird?
Exactly. He looks psycho in that movie. This is why we've talked about this. Is like, why hasn't he ever gotten a chance to play Joker? He's got some evil in him.
He's got the look.
He's got it. And he looks crazy in that movie. There's that scene where he's like at that sinister smile, and his hair looks kind of like from an angle it looks like devil horns, to be honest with you. It's just
like Ace Ventura when nature calls, when he had
Yeah.
that's what it looked like.
Yeah.
Great talk about movie posters. Before we let everybody go, I want to bring this up, and we're very fortunate to have Charlie on here for many reasons. His pop culture knowledge, his expertise on the subject, but he's also one of the biggest wrestling fans I know, and he's a great wrestling historian. He's got a vast knowledge of wrestling. He's the only guy I could talk to about Cowboy Scott Casey. I'll put it that way. With nobody else is going to know who the hell I'm talking about except for him. But we did lose, and every time we do lose a famous pop culture figure, we always take a little time. We spend about 5 minutes talking about our favorite memory of this pop culture figure. This week we lost Scott Hall, and I know everybody here was a fan of Scott Hall. We've talked about him through text, and Charlie, your knowledge of wrestling too. I know you were a big Scott Hall fan too. If you guys want to talk a little bit about what maybe Scott Hall meant to your fandom or to the sport itself or to your childhood, and if whoever wants to kick it off can, but we could talk a little bit about Scott Hall.
Well, one thing I'll say about it is every once in a while, there's someone that rides this perfect wave of perfect timing. Sometimes a lot of guys have a skill set, but they never really hit the perfect time. And his character of Razor Ramon came at a perfect time, not too cartoony, but he made you like wrestling. Because let's face it, sometimes there are wrestling characters and it's a little embarrassing to watch wrestling, and your girlfriend or your wife, you're watching that, and he actually made it cool to watch wrestling as Razor Ramon, and then even more so when he was just himself. I really don't think there's too much more that hasn't been said. I do want to say something that I just found out today. So during COVID, he was self-isolated, and he lived alone, and so he went back to drinking. When they found him, he weighed 210. This is the guy that's 6'6", 6'5", and to be 210, it's a real shame. It sounds like something that could have been avoided if he had just lived with DDP or some other friend instead of living alone and having to then lean on alcoholism. That really broke my heart. You never want to hear that someone is just alone. You want to hear that they have a social network. And he did with DDP and Kevin Nash, but he was living alone and he went back to drinking. But he rode that perfect wave. And at the end of his life, he did conquer alcoholism, but then it came back. And he made it cool to like wrestling, both as a character and as himself. And that's very hard to do. So that's my take on Scott Hall.
For me, the character of Razor Ramon, I'll be honest with you, I didn't like him. And this is as a young kid because I was younger. And so I was going, he had the heel persona when he first came out. And so, it's just as a, like I said, as a kid, you don't root for the heels. But yeah, like you mentioned, he was super cool. This whole thing, to be honest with you, I thought he was like, why would anybody like him? He's, the bad guy. I think part of it was like a Scarface type situation, right? Like kind of take from that a little bit. When I believe he had a feud with Goldust. And this just goes to show you how like awesome Goldust was or is, and Scott Hall. I thought Goldust was this weird, creepy character, so I actually started rooting for Razor Ramon. Like they had like that weird little thing going on. One of my favorite memories is that awesome fucking ladder match with Shawn Michaels at a WrestleMania for I remember one thing the character was always proud of was he was the Intercontinental Champion for a good while. That meant more to him than it seemed than winning the world title. But the whole thing with going to WCW at the time and it sucked when they brought out fake Razor and fake Diesel because those guys sucked. Yeah, it was a lot of fun watching him. I always kind of wish that eventually they would make their way back, and they kind of did, but it was past their time, or not really past their time, depending on how you want to look at it. But after you get over that, because hey, you grow up, it's a character, and actually watch the guy and see everything that he does, it's really, really awesome, and it's tremendous loss for the business.
Yeah, man. I'm like on the other side of that. He actually made being a heel or liking heel. He made a heel or a bad guy cool. So he was one of the few wrestlers when I first started watching him, first came in, the Razor Ramon character that I really liked because he was a heel. But he was actually kind of cool, kind of like the Ric Flair-esque, like when Ric Flair was kind of the heel, but you still fucking root him on because he's Ric Flair, right? I thought that transition from him leaving the WWE and going to WCW as the outsiders, showing up and walking through the stands and doing the whole, hey, you know who I am, but you don't know why I'm here. I thought that takeover for WCW and the NWO, I thought that was brilliant. Probably some of the best wrestling one of the best wrestling gimmicks that's probably ever been or that I've ever seen. I really loved that. And the Monday Night Wars, everything about it was just made for phenomenal TV. And it's one of my favorite childhood memories of wrestling, the wars, the Monday Night Wars and the outsiders and WWE and the NWO. And I thought, having heard the news of him passing is just such a tragedy because, like we said, he had cleaned himself up. He'd been doing better, and all this shit happened and he had to isolate. And it's just, it's such a big loss because he was such a big character, Hall of Famer for the WWE. And, hopefully the older wrestlers kind of I don't know what the word would be, take care of themselves. You know what I mean? Where they're getting older, they can't do the same shit that they did when they were younger, as we all are. So, hopefully we don't get any more negative news or bad news out of the wrestling world for a while.
Let me say one more thing. One of the greatest intro musics I've ever heard in my life. Sometimes I walk into my office, with that in my headphones, just because.
Which one? The Razor Ramon?
Wasn't that a take on the Eagles? Those shoes. It sounds like the same song.
I'd have to check it out.
Charlie, you probably know. I don't know. I know you guys play a lot of Eagles during those drive time afternoon. That song, those shoes, that sounds like Razor Ramon's entrance song. I always thought.
Everything is inspired by something else.
Yeah.
It would make sense that they would do that. I don't know that they did, but it would make sense that they did do that.
No, I was gonna say, and that finishing move, man, probably one of the best ones of all time, the Razor's Edge with the whole lift and
the finishing move.
Yeah, finishing move. I mean, I don't know who if it was who created it or whatnot, but yeah, that one goes up there.
I remember watching Scott Hall in the AWA. Little history, you guys know Hulk Hogan wasn't really created in the WWF. He was coming from the Hulkamania thing was AWA, Vern Gagne, Minnesota, Midwest in the early 80s. And Vince McMahon just made it bigger. And Hulk Hogan made it bigger. And they had a bigger audience in the East Coast. Well, Scott Hall was pegged to be Hulk Hogan's replacement. He's this guy. He looked like Tom Selleck. If you look at
he had the big mustache.
Yeah, he looked like Tom Selleck. I think they called him at one point Magnum Scott Hall, and I hope it's for the resemblance and for nothing else. So he was very green. He wasn't one of the best wrestlers, so they teamed him up with Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig. They had a tag team title run in the AWA, and things weren't going so well. He had a stint in WCW as the Diamond Stud. He was wrestling in Japan, and then he goes to the WWF. At the time, WWF, and they get this white guy from Maryland pretending to be a Cuban drug lord from Miami, which you cannot do that today. WWF had done that with George Gray, who was the one-man gang who became Akeem, and he was this white guy who pretended he wore dashiki and pretended he was black. Scott Hall pretended he was Cuban, and he was this white guy from Maryland, and he wore the fuchsia pants, and he talked like people owed him money for drugs. He wore the chains, and he became this phenomenon. He couldn't get away with it today, but at the time when we're looking at characters, and the WWF was at such a stalemate because we saw like garbage men and plumbers and cowboys, and then here comes this totally different guy who acted like Tony Montana, 6'7", greasy hair, colorful attire. The way he talked, he was just so cool. That use of the word bad guy and just making that be cool to root for the heel. When he came over to WCW as Scott Hall during the invasion, everybody thought, wow, what better representation to get the coolest guy from our competitor's roster to represent this invasion. So it's like I wrote on my Facebook post, I don't think you could write the book of wrestling without Scott Hall occupying some very important chapters. And some of the matches with Goldust and Shawn Michaels and the stuff he did with WCW, I think it's unparalleled. He has a very unique career. I got to meet him one time. Guy couldn't have been nicer. And he was such a great guy. He's going to be sorely missed. And it sucks, Charlie, about the whole reverting back to alcoholism and going in pain and dying the way he did. But I think DDP helped extend his life, at least for another decade. And he's going to be missed.
Yeah, that's a good point. DDP did save his life, and he gave him a good run for us to think of him on great terms instead of dying when he wanted to die, because he was trying to kill himself through drinking. And it's good that he had one last run as a true life baby face.
Yeah,
so that's good.
Absolutely. Charlie, we want to thank you so much for joining us today. Is there anything you'd like to plug or talk about? Where could our listeners find you and learn more about you and see your show?
Well, I'd like to remind everybody that on YouTube, there is a channel called PVT, Professional Valley Talk, and it's run by Mr. Rock and Roll James. And we've done a show called the Rock N Chaz Show, and it'll be 2 years this April. And we've, we've interviewed, as you said at the intro, Buff Bagwell and Kurt Angle, but also just a lot of local fun people as well. And it's a fun, if you get a chance, check it out. We'd appreciate it. And we might have some more surprises. And it's one of my great hobbies that I really enjoy doing. So check it out if you can.
Check them out, everybody. And you can find me at your nearest art house movie theater looking at animated posters.
He's not there by choice, though, folks. He's not there by choice. He just happened upon the place.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Joseph and Bob, always. That's our show, everyone. Listeners, we'd love to hear from you. Hit us up and let us know which are your favorite movie posters. Most importantly, let us know what you think about the show. You may reach us at formidableopponents@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook by searching for Formidable Opponents. We want to give a shout out to Creative Little Pill for her artwork. And join us next episode. We'll be talking a little April Fools. What are we going to do, Bob?
Oh, man. Best Nickelback song.
There you go.
Happy April Fools, folks. Happy April Fools.
Charlie, you're welcome to return on that one.
I think I'm going to be busy that day.
It's like there's more than, how can three guys pick a good song from Nickelback? Yeah, we're going to try to make it happen, folks.
So for Bob, Joseph, and Charlie, we'll see y'all next week. Thank you, everybody.